Imagine waking up on the last morning of your world. You don't know it yet. How could you? The sun rises the same way it always has. The air smells of wet earth and flowering magnolias. Somewhere in the distance, a hadrosaur calls to its herd, a low, resonant sound that travels through the morning mist like a song. It's an ordinary day, a Tuesday, let's say. Though, of course, dinosaurs didn't have Tuesdays. They didn't have calendars or clocks, or any concept that time could end. But it will. In a few hours, something will fall from the sky. Not rain, not lightning. Something that has been travelling through the darkness of space for millions of years, silent and patient, carrying with it the end of an era. A rock, 10 kilometers wide, moving at 20 kilometers per second. When it strikes the Earth, it will release the energy of 1 billion atomic bombs. It will vaporize rock. It will ignite the atmosphere. It will send a shockwave around the planet that will flatten forests and boil oceans. And in the span of a single day, one rotation of the Earth, the age of dinosaurs will end. 66 million years of evolution. Thousands of species. Creatures that ruled every continent, every ocean, every sky. Gone. Not slowly, not gradually, but in a moment of violence so absolute that the planet itself will bear the scar forever. This is the story of that day. The last day, the day the sky fell. The sun rises over a world that will not see tomorrow. Not this world, anyway. Not the one where a triceratops stands knee-deep in a shallow stream, water dripping from the edges of her beak as she lifts her head to taste the morning air. Not the one where ferns taller than houses cast shadows across volcanic soil still warm from the night. Not the one where the sky belongs to creatures with wingspans wider than school buses, their calls echoing across a coastline that will, in a few hours, cease to exist. But right now, none of that has happened yet. Right now, it's just morning. The air is thick. You'd feel it if you were there. Not oppressive, but present. Substantial. Like breathing through silk. The oxygen content is slightly different than what you're used to. Maybe a bit less. Maybe a bit more. Scientists argue about this, but whatever the percentage, it smells green. It smells alive. Wet earth and flowering magnolias and something else. Something ancient and unfamiliar. The smell of a planet that has never known cities or agriculture, or the particular chemical signature of human industry. The temperature is already climbing. It's going to be hot today. Not unusual. This is the late Cretaceous, and this particular stretch of coastline, what will one day be called the Yucatan Peninsula, sits near the equator. The shallow sea to the east is warm, almost bath water warm, and it's been evaporating all night. Now, as the sun clears the horizon, mist rises from the water in slow, ghostly columns. A dragonfly, enormous by modern standards, cuts through the mist. Its wings catch the light. Iridescent, prehistoric. It's hunting smaller insects, and it's very good at it. Its ancestors have been perfecting this for 300 million years. Somewhere deeper in the forest, a hadrosaur calls. Low and resonant, like a foghorn made of flesh. Another answers, then another. A conversation in a language no human will ever speak. The world is waking up. She's old. You can see it in the way she moves. Careful, deliberate, favouring her left front leg where an old injury never quite healed right. Her frill is scarred, crisscrossed with white lines where the keratin grew back thicker after fights she barely remembers. One of her horns is chipped near the tip. The other is still sharp. She's a triceratops. Three-horned face, though if you were standing next to her you wouldn't be thinking about taxonomy. You'd be thinking about size. She weighs as much as an elephant. More, maybe. 6 tons of muscle and bone in that massive skull, a third of her body length crowned with horns that could punch through a car door. But she's not aggressive. Not right now. Right now she's just thirsty. The stream is shallow here, barely up to her ankles, flowing over smooth stones worn round by centuries of water. She lowers her head, and her beak, sharp, keratinous, built for shearing tough vegetation, breaks the surface. She drinks in long, slow pulls, her throat working, water spilling from the corners of her mouth. Around her, the rest of the herd is scattered across the clearing. Juveniles, mostly. 3 of them are play fighting, their small horns clacking together with a sound like wooden blocks. They're not trying to hurt each other. This is practice. In a few years, those horns will be weapons. Right now, they're toys. An adult male stands at the edge of the clearing, alert. He's younger than the old female, bigger, his frill more brightly coloured. He's watching the tree line. Not because he's seen anything, just because that's what he does. Vigilance is survival. The old female finishes drinking. She lifts her head, water streaming from her beak, and stands very still for a moment. Her eyes, small, dark, set far back on either side of her massive skull, blink slowly. She's not thinking about the future. She's not thinking about the past. She's just here, in this moment, feeling the warmth of the sun on her back and the cool water around her feet. She has no name. She has no concept of names. But if we're going to spend her last day with her, we should call her something. Let's call her the matriarch. A mile away, something else is waking up. It stands in the shadow of a massive conifer, its body perfectly still, except for the slow rise and fall of its chest. Each breath is deep, controlled, the breath of a predator that has learned patience. A Tyrannosaurus rex. 40 feet long from nose to tail, 20 feet tall when it stands fully upright, though right now it's crouched slightly, its weight balanced over its hips, its tail extended behind it like a counterweight. Its skin is not smooth. Up close you'd see it's covered in scales, some large and pebbly, others small and almost feather-like, especially around the neck and back. There might even be a crest of proto-feathers running down its spine. Paleontologists are still arguing about this. But whether it's scaled or feathered or some combination of both, one thing is certain, it's built to kill. The head alone is 5 feet long. The jaws can generate bite forces that would crush bone like breadsticks. The teeth, some as long as bananas, are serrated, designed to saw through flesh and hold struggling prey. The arms are small, yes, almost comically so, but the legs are not. The legs are pure power, thick with muscle, capable of propelling this 6-ton animal at speeds that would terrify you if you were unlucky enough to be running in front of it. But right now, it's not running. It's not even hunting. It's just standing there, watching the forest wake up. Its vision is sharp. Sharper than yours. It can see movement at distances you'd need binoculars for. It can see colours you can't even imagine. Wavelengths in the ultraviolet spectrum that make the world look painted in hues that have no names in human language. Right now, it's watching a small herd of Edmontosaurus about 200 yards away, grazing on low ferns. They haven't seen it. They're downwind and the Rex is motionless, a statue carved from muscle and hunger. But it doesn't attack. Not yet. It's not hungry enough. It fed 2 days ago on a carcass it stole from a pack of smaller theropods, and there's still meat in its belly. Hunting is expensive. Hunting risks injury. A broken leg means death, even for an apex predator. So it waits. It watches. It calculates. Let's call this one the hunter. The hunter shifts its weight slightly, and a twig snaps under its foot. The sound is small, but in the quiet of the forest it carries. One of the Edmontosaurus lifts its head, alert. The others freeze. The hunter doesn't move. 30 seconds pass. A minute. The Edmontosaurus, seeing nothing, lowers its head and goes back to feeding. The hunter exhales slowly, a sound like wind through a cave, and turns away. Not today. It walks deeper into the forest, each footstep a small earthquake, and disappears into the shadows. Beneath the roots of a cycad tree, in a burrow no bigger than a shoebox, something small is sleeping. It's a mammal, barely. A creature about the size of a rat, covered in coarse fur with a long snout and tiny eyes. Its teeth are sharp, built for crunching insects, and maybe the occasional lizard. Its claws are good for digging. Right now it's curled into a tight ball, its tail wrapped around its body, its breathing slow and shallow. It's been asleep for hours, hiding from the night, hiding from the predators, hiding from the world. It has no idea that it's one of the most important creatures on the planet. Not because it's strong, not because it's fast, but because it's small. Because it can hide. Because it can survive on scraps. In a few hours, being small will be the only thing that matters. But right now, it's just sleeping. Dreaming, maybe, if mammals this primitive dream. Dreaming of beetles and warm dirt, and the safety of darkness. Let's call it the survivor, though it doesn't know that yet. Above the forest, the sky is a highway. A pterosaur glides on a thermal, its wings spread wide, barely moving. It's a Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest flying animals that has ever existed. Its wingspan is wider than a fighter jet's. From wingtip to wingtip, it measures nearly 40 feet, but it's not heavy. Its bones are hollow, filled with air sacs. Its body a marvel of evolutionary engineering. It weighs maybe 500 pounds, about as much as a large lion, despite being the size of a small plane. It's not hunting. Not yet. It's just riding the air, feeling the warmth rising from the forest below, letting the thermals carry it higher and higher until the world below becomes a patchwork of green and blue and brown. From up here, it can see everything. The matriarch and her herd, tiny shapes moving through the clearing. The hunter, a dark shadow slipping between trees. The coastline, a thin line where land meets sea. The shallow ocean stretching to the horizon, dotted with islands that will one day be swallowed by rising water or ground down by tectonic drift. The pterosaur banks slightly, adjusting its trajectory, and glides toward the coast. There's a cliff there, a good place to roost, a good place to watch for fish in the shallows. It has no thoughts about the future. It has no thoughts about the past. It simply flies as its ancestors have flown for 150 million years. Let's call it the Watcher. The forest is not quiet. If you were standing there, you'd hear layers of sound, each one distinct, each one part of a symphony that has no composer. The low calls of hadrosaurs echoing through the trees, the high-pitched chirping of early birds, small and quick, flitting from branch to branch. The buzz of insects, constant and pervasive, a background hum that never stops, the rustle of leaves as something moves through the undergrowth. A lizard, maybe, or a small dinosaur, one of the many species that never got big, that stayed small and fast and clever. And beneath it all, the sound of the forest itself, the creak of trees swaying in the breeze, the drip of water from leaves still wet with dew, the distant crash of waves against the shore. It's a living soundscape, and it's been playing for millions of years. But today, it will go silent. The matriarch has moved on from the stream. She's grazing now, her beak tearing through the tough fronds of a cycad plant. The taste is bitter, but she's used to it. She's been eating cycads her whole life. Behind her, one of the juveniles has wandered too close to the forest edge. The adult male notices and makes a low rumbling sound. A warning. The juvenile freezes, then trots back toward the center of the clearing. The male relaxes. Danger avoided, except there is no danger. Not from the forest, not from predators. The real danger is above them, invisible, incomprehensible, traveling at 20 kilometers per second through the vacuum of space. But they don't know that. They can't know that, so they just keep grazing. The hunter has found a place to rest. A fallen log, thick and covered in moss, provides some shade. It lowers itself to the ground, its massive body settling with a sound like a sigh, and closes its eyes. It's not asleep, just resting, conserving energy. The forest is hot, and there's no point in moving until the sun is lower and the prey animals are more active. A small theropod, something quick and feathered, about the size of a turkey, skitters past, chasing a lizard. The hunter opens one eye, watches it for a moment, then closes the eye again, not worth the effort. The survivor wakes up. It's still dark in the burrow, but the mammal can sense the change in temperature, the shift in the air. It's daytime now, time to stay hidden. It grooms itself briefly, tiny paws running over its fur, cleaning away dirt and parasites. Then it curls back up and waits. Waiting is what it does best. He-Watcher has landed on the cliff. It folds its wings with a leathery snap and stands on all fours, its wing claws gripping the rock. From here, it can see the ocean stretching out to the horizon. The water is clear, shallow, warm. Schools of fish move just beneath the surface, their scales flashing silver in the sunlight. The pterosaur watches them, calculating. Not yet. The fish are too deep. It will wait until they come closer to shore. Patience is survival. Midday. The sun is directly overhead now, and the heat is intense. The matriarch has moved into the shade of a large tree, and the rest of the herd has followed. They stand together, barely moving, conserving energy. The juveniles have stopped playing. Even they can feel the weight of the heat. The hunter is still resting, its breathing slow and deep. The survivor is still in its burrow, safe in the cool darkness. The watcher is still on the cliff, watching the ocean. Everything is normal. Everything is as it should be, except for one thing. If you were there, if you looked up at the sky, you might notice something. A star that wasn't there before. A bright point of light, low on the horizon, growing slowly brighter. But you wouldn't think much of it. Stars appear in the daytime sometimes if they're bright enough. Venus does it. Jupiter does it. This is not Venus. This is not Jupiter. This is 10 kilometers of rock and metal, traveling at 20 kilometers per second, about to deliver more energy than 1 billion nuclear bombs. But the dinosaurs don't know that. They don't have telescopes. They don't have mathematics. They don't have the concept of asteroid or extinction or impact event. They just have this moment, this ordinary, beautiful, doomed moment. The matriarch shifts her weight and her old injury twinges. She's been standing too long. She takes a few steps, testing the leg, and it holds. Good enough. One of the juveniles nuzzles against her side, seeking comfort or reassurance or maybe just contact. She doesn't pull away. She stands there, solid and patient, and lets the juvenile lean against her. This is what she's always done. Protect the young. Lead the herd. Survive. She's survived droughts and floods and predators and rival herds. She's survived injuries that would have killed a weaker animal. She survived 65 million years of evolution, the culmination of a lineage that stretches back to the very first dinosaurs, back to the Triassic, back to a world so different from this one that it might as well be another planet. She has survived everything. Except this. The hunter dreams. Not the way you dream, with narratives and symbols and subconscious anxieties, but something simpler. Flashes of memory. The taste of blood, the feeling of teeth sinking into flesh, the satisfaction of a full belly. It shifts in its sleep, and its tail twitches. In a few hours it will be dead, but right now it's just dreaming. The survivor hears something, a vibration in the ground, faint but distinct. It lifts its head, whiskers twitching, trying to identify the source. Nothing. Just the usual sounds of the forest. It settles back down. The vibration was real, though. Somewhere far away, the Earth is already beginning to feel the gravitational pull of the approaching asteroid. Tectonic plates are shifting, infinitesimally. Seismic sensors, if they existed, would be going crazy, but they don't exist, so the vibration goes unnoticed. The watcher sees the fish. They've moved closer to shore, and now they're within range. The pterosaur unfolds its wings, steps to the edge of the cliff, and launches itself into the air. The dive is controlled, precise. Wings tucked, body streamlined, falling like a spear. At the last second it extends its long neck and opens its beak, and the beak, sharp, toothless, perfectly adapted, snaps shut around a fish. The pterosaur pulls up, wings beating hard, and climbs back into the sky. The fish struggles for a moment, then goes still. The watcher lands back on the cliff and begins to eat. This is the last meal it will ever have. Late afternoon. The heat is starting to ease. The matriarch and her herd are moving again, heading toward a grove of palms where the vegetation is thick and nutritious. The hunter is awake now, stretching, shaking off the stiffness of sleep. It's starting to feel hungry. Maybe tonight it will hunt. The survivor is still in its burrow, but it's getting restless. Soon, when the sun sets, it will emerge to forage. The watcher is grooming its wings, running its beak along the edges of the membranes, keeping them clean and flexible. Everything is normal. Except the star is brighter now, much brighter. If you were looking at the sky, you'd definitely notice it. You might even be worried, but the dinosaurs aren't looking at the sky. They're looking at the ground, at the water, at each other. They're living their lives moment to moment the way they always have. They don't know that the star is not a star. They don't know that in less than an hour it will strike the Earth with the force of 100 million megatons of TNT. They don't know that the age of dinosaurs is about to end. They just know that the sun is getting lower and the air is cooling, and soon it will be time to find a place to sleep. The matriarch reaches the palm grove and begins to feed. The fronds are tough, but her beak is tougher. She tears through them methodically, chewing slowly, savoring the taste. The juveniles are playing again, now that the heat has passed. Their energy is boundless. They chase each other in circles, their small feet kicking up dust. The adult male stands watch, as always. This is a good day. No predators. No injuries. Plenty of food and water. A good day. The last day. The hunter is moving through the forest, silent despite its size. It's tracking a scent. Something large, something herbivorous, something that might be worth the effort. It pauses, lifts its head and sniffs the air. There, upwind, a herd of something. Triceratops, maybe, or Edmontosaurus. The hunter's heart rate increases slightly. Not much, just enough to prepare the body for action. It moves forward, slow and deliberate, placing each foot carefully to avoid making noise. It's a good hunter, one of the best that has ever lived, but in 30 minutes it won't matter. The survivor emerges from its burrow. The sun is low now, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The mammal sniffs the air, checking for danger, then scurries toward a rotting log where beetles are plentiful. It's small. It's insignificant. It's barely a footnote in the story of the Cretaceous. But it will survive. Not because it's strong or fast or clever. Just because it's small, and it can hide, and it happens to be in the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on how you look at it. The watcher takes flight one last time. The sun is setting, and the thermals are weakening, but there's still enough lift to carry it over the forest. It glides in wide, lazy circles, watching the world below turn golden in the fading light. From up here, everything looks peaceful. The forest, the ocean, the distant mountains. It looks like a world that will last forever. The matriarch is settling down for the night. She's found a spot near the edge of the clearing, sheltered by trees, with a good view of the surrounding area. The juveniles are nearby, huddled together for warmth and safety. The adult male is still standing, still watching, though his eyes are starting to droop. The matriarch lowers herself to the ground with a grunt. Her old legs are tired. It's been a long day. She closes her eyes. She doesn't know that she will never open them again. 66 million years ago, on an ordinary Tuesday in the late Cretaceous, the world was alive. Dinosaurs grazed in clearings and hunted in forests. Pterosaurs soared over oceans. Mammals hid in burrows. Birds sang from trees. The sun set, as it always did. The stars came out, as they always did. And in the sky, unnoticed by almost everything, a bright point of light grew brighter and brighter and brighter. In a few minutes, it would strike the earth, and everything would change. But right now, in this last moment of the old world, everything was still normal. The matriarch was sleeping. The hunter was stalking. The survivor was foraging. The watcher was flying. And the world was turning, as it always had, as it always would, till it didn't. Let's go back, not to yesterday or last week or even last year. Let's go back 160 million years, to a place between Mars and Jupiter where rocks tumble through darkness, silent and patient, waiting for gravity to write their stories. The asteroid belt, a graveyard of a planet that never formed, or maybe the shattered remains of one that did, and then broke apart in some ancient catastrophe we'll never fully understand. Millions of rocks ranging in size from grains of sand to mountains, all orbiting the sun in a slow, endless dance. Most of them will stay there forever, circling, waiting, going nowhere, but not this one. This one is about 10 kilometers across, roughly the size of Mount Everest. It's made of rock and metal, mostly silicates, some iron, some nickel, nothing special. Just another piece of cosmic debris, one among millions. But 160 million years ago, something happened. Maybe another asteroid passed too close, its gravity tugging at this one, altering its trajectory by a fraction of a degree. Maybe there was a collision, a glancing blow that sent fragments spinning off in new directions. Maybe it was just the accumulated effect of millions of years of tiny gravitational nudges from Jupiter, the solar system's giant whose influence reaches everywhere. Whatever the cause, this rock began to drift. Not quickly. Space doesn't do anything quickly. But over millions of years, its orbit changed. It moved inward toward the Sun, crossing the orbit of Mars, then Earth. And for 160 million years, it missed. Earth and the asteroid passed each other countless times, like two dancers circling a ballroom, never quite touching. Sometimes they were on opposite sides of the Sun. Sometimes they were close, but not close enough. Until today. Today, the dance ends. The asteroid doesn't know this, of course. It doesn't know anything. It's just rock, tumbling through the void, obeying the laws of physics with perfect, mindless precision. But if we could watch its journey, if we could compress 160 million years into a few minutes, we'd see something almost beautiful. A slow spiral inward, a gradual convergence, two trajectories that were always going to meet, even if it took the lifetime of a species to happen. The asteroid crosses Earth's orbit for the 1,000th time, the 10,000th time, and this time Earth is there, not in front of it, not behind it, but exactly where it needs to be for the collision to occur. The mathematics are elegant. The physics are inevitable. Mass, velocity, trajectory, all of it aligning with the kind of precision that makes you wonder if the universe has a sense of irony. Because this rock, this meaningless chunk of stone and metal, is about to end the reign of the most successful group of animals that has ever walked the Earth. Let's jump forward now to the last few hours. The asteroid is close, very close. It's already inside the orbit of the Moon, and it's accelerating, pulled by Earth's gravity, falling toward the planet at 20 kilometers per second. That's fast. Faster than you can really comprehend. Faster than a bullet. Faster than sound. Faster than thought if you were standing on the asteroid. If such a thing were possible, you'd cross the distance from New York to Los Angeles in less than 4 minutes. But you're not on the asteroid. You're on Earth, 66 million years ago, standing in a forest on the Yucatan Peninsula, and you have no idea what's coming. The asteroid is still too far away to see with the naked eye. It's just a point of light, barely brighter than the stars around it. And even if you could see it, even if you were looking directly at it, you wouldn't understand what it was. A comet, maybe, a wandering star, an omen. But not a threat, not yet. The matriarch wakes. It's still dark, but the sky is beginning to lighten in the east. Dawn is coming. She shifts her weight, testing her legs, and the old injury protests. She ignores it. Pain is familiar. Pain is manageable. Around her, the rest of the herd is still sleeping. The juveniles are piled together in a heap of scales and warmth. The adult male is standing. He always stands, even when he sleeps, ready to react to danger. The matriarch rises slowly, carefully, and walks toward the stream. Her footsteps are heavy, deliberate, each one a small earthquake that sends ripples through the ground. She drinks. The water is cool, clean, tasting of minerals and algae. She drinks for a long time, then lifts her head and looks at the sky. The stars are fading. The brightest ones are still visible, but most have already been washed out by the approaching dawn, except for one. There's a star low on the eastern horizon, just above the tree line, that's brighter than the others. Much brighter, almost as bright as Venus, which is also visible higher in the sky. The matriarch looks at it for a moment, then looks away. Stars don't matter, water matters, food matters, the herd matters. She turns and walks back toward the clearing. The star continues to grow brighter. The hunter is already awake. It didn't sleep much. It never does. A few hours of rest scattered throughout the night is all it needs. The rest of the time it's alert, listening, watching, waiting for opportunity. Right now, it's standing at the edge of a ravine, looking down at a small herd of Edmontosaurus drinking from a stream at the bottom. There are 5 of them, 2 adults, 3 juveniles. The hunter calculates the ravine is steep, but not too steep. It could get down there, but getting back up would be harder, especially with a full belly. And if the prey scatters, if it has to chase them through the ravine, it could get trapped, injured, killed. Not worth the risk. The hunter turns away and begins walking along the rim of the ravine, looking for easier prey. As it walks, it glances up at the sky, not because it's curious, just because movement catches its eye. There's a bright point of light low on the horizon, and it's moving, slowly but noticeably, tracking across the sky. The hunter watches it for a few seconds, then dismisses it. Not food. Not a threat. Irrelevant. It keeps walking. The survivor is awake too, though it hasn't left its burrow yet. It's grooming itself, running its tiny paws over its fur, cleaning away the dirt and debris from last night's foraging. It's a meticulous process. Every inch of fur must be checked, every parasite removed. Cleanliness is survival. Parasites carry disease, and disease means death. The mammal works methodically, starting with its head, moving down its body, ending with its tail. When it's finished, it sits very still and listens. The forest is waking up. Birds are starting to call, insects are beginning to buzz. Somewhere in the distance, a hadrosaur is making its low, mournful sound. Everything sounds normal, but there's something else, a feeling. Not a sound, not a smell, just a sense that something is different. The survivor doesn't know what it is. It doesn't have the brain capacity to analyze abstract concepts like wrongness or unease. It just knows that something feels off. It stays in the burrow. The watcher is already in the air. It launched itself from the cliff just before dawn, catching the first thermals of the day, and now it's soaring high above the coastline, wings spread wide, barely moving. From up here, the world is a map. The forest is a dark green carpet. The ocean is a sheet of blue glass. The sky is a dome of fading stars and growing light. And there, low on the horizon, is the bright star. The watcher sees it. Of course it sees it. Its vision is extraordinary, far better than any human's, capable of spotting a fish from 1,000 feet up. But it doesn't understand what it's seeing. It's just a light. Lights appear in the sky all the time. The sun, the moon, stars, lightning. This is just another light. The pterosaur adjusts its wings slightly, catching a new thermal, and climbs higher, 2 hours until impact. The asteroid is close enough now that if you had a telescope, you'd be able to see it as more than just a point of light. You'd see that it's not a star at all. You'd see the irregular shape, the pitted surface, the way it's tumbling slowly as it falls. But you don't have a telescope. You just have your eyes, and your eyes tell you that there's a very bright star in the sky, and it's getting brighter. Some of the animals are starting to notice. A flock of early birds, flying over the forest, suddenly veers off course, their formation breaking apart. They don't know why. They just feel the need to change direction, to get away from something they can't identify. A group of hadrosaurs stops grazing and lifts their heads, all at once, staring at the eastern sky. They make nervous sounds, low rumbles that travel through the herd like a wave. A pack of small theropods hunting in the underbrush suddenly scatters, running in different directions, abandoning their prey. Something is wrong. They don't know what. They don't have the words or the concepts to describe it. But every instinct they have is screaming at them to run, to hide, to get away. But get away from what? The sky? You can't run from the sky. The matriarch feels it too. She's grazing in the palm grove, tearing through fronds with her beak, when she suddenly stops. Her head lifts. Her eyes scan the horizon. The juveniles notice and stop playing. The adult male takes a step forward, alert, ready to defend the herd. But there's nothing to defend against. No predator, no rival herd, just a feeling. The matriarch makes a low sound, a rumble that comes from deep in her chest. It's not a warning. It's not a call. It's just sound, a way of expressing something she doesn't understand. The herd gathers closer together. Safety in numbers. It's always been that way. They stand there huddled, waiting for the feeling to pass. It doesn't pass. 1 hour until impact. The asteroid is visible now. Clearly visible. You don't need a telescope. You don't even need good eyesight. It's there, in the eastern sky, a bright point of light that's no longer a point but a small disk, growing larger by the second. If you were a human, if you understood what you were seeing, you'd be terrified, you'd be running, screaming, trying to find shelter, knowing it wouldn't matter, knowing there's nowhere to hide from something like this. But you're not a human. You're a dinosaur, or a pterosaur, or a mammal, and you don't understand. You just know that something is very, very wrong. The sky is changing. The light is changing. It's still morning, but the quality of the light is off, like the sun is shining through a filter, or like there's an eclipse happening, except the moon is nowhere near the sun. The temperature is changing too. It's getting warmer. Not much, just a degree or two, but enough to notice, enough to feel uncomfortable. And there's a sound, faint but growing, a high-pitched whine like wind through a narrow gap, except there's no wind. It's the sound of the asteroid tearing through the upper atmosphere, compressing the air in front of it, heating it to incandescence. The sound of the end of the world, approaching at 20 kilometers per second. The hunter has stopped hunting. It's standing in a clearing, perfectly still, staring at the sky. Its mouth is slightly open, its tongue tasting the air, trying to identify the source of the wrongness. The air tastes strange, metallic, electric, like the air before a thunderstorm, but stronger, more intense. The hunter's heart is beating faster now, not from exertion, from fear. It's never felt fear like this before. It's an apex predator. It doesn't fear anything. But right now, every instinct it has is telling it to run. But where? Where do you run when the danger is everywhere, when it's coming from the sky itself? The hunter doesn't know. So it just stands there, frozen, staring at the growing light in the east. 30 minutes until impact. The asteroid is huge now. Not huge like the moon. It's still much smaller than that. But huge enough that it's clearly not a star, clearly not anything that belongs in the sky. It's a disk of light, bright enough to hurt if you look directly at it, and it's growing so fast that you can see it changing second by second. And it's making noise. Real noise now, not just the high-pitched whine, but a deep rumbling roar, like thunder that never stops, that just keeps getting louder and louder. The ground is shaking, not violently, not yet, just a faint tremor, a vibration that you can feel in your bones. All across the Yucatan Peninsula, animals are panicking. Herds of hadrosaurs are stampeding, running in random directions, trampling anything in their path. Pterosaurs are abandoning their roosts, launching themselves into the air, flying away from the light, though there's nowhere to fly to. Small dinosaurs are diving into burrows, into caves, into any shelter they can find. Predators are ignoring prey. Prey are ignoring predators. The normal rules of survival have been suspended. There's only one rule now: get away. But you can't get away from this. The matriarch is running. She doesn't know where she's going. She's just running, her massive legs pounding the ground, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The rest of the herd is running with her, the juveniles struggling to keep up, the adult male bringing up the rear. They crash through the forest, breaking branches, trampling ferns, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The matriarch's old injury is screaming at her, but she ignores it. Pain doesn't matter. Nothing matters except getting away from the light, from the sound, from the terrible wrongness in the sky. She doesn't know that running won't save her. She doesn't know that nothing will save her. She just runs. The survivor is deep in its burrow, curled into the tightest ball it can manage, shaking. It can hear the roar. Even down here, meters underground, it can hear it. The sound is so loud that it's not just sound anymore. It's a physical force, a pressure that makes the walls of the burrow vibrate. The mammal doesn't understand what's happening. It doesn't have the capacity to understand. It just knows that the world above is ending, and all it can do is hide and hope. Hope is not a strategy, but sometimes it's all you have. 10 minutes until impact. The asteroid fills the eastern sky. It's no longer a disk. It's a wall of light, a second sun, blazing so bright that it casts shadows, that makes the real sun look dim by comparison. The roar is deafening. It's not just sound, it's a physical assault, a pressure wave that makes your chest vibrate, that makes your ears bleed, that makes it impossible to think. The ground is shaking violently now. Trees are swaying. Rocks are tumbling down hillsides. The shallow sea is churning, waves rising and falling in chaotic patterns. And the heat is intense. The asteroid is compressing the atmosphere in front of it, heating it to thousands of degrees, and that heat is radiating outward, turning the sky into an oven. Animals are collapsing. Not from the impact, that hasn't happened yet, just from the heat, from the sound, from the sheer terror of it all. The matriarch has stopped running. She can't run anymore. Her legs won't carry her. She's standing in a clearing, her sides heaving, her eyes wide, staring at the light. The juveniles are huddled against her, seeking comfort that she can't provide. The adult male is on the ground, collapsed, his breath coming in shallow gasps. The matriarch doesn't understand what's happening. She doesn't understand why the sky is on fire, why the ground is shaking, why everything is ending. She just stands there, waiting, because there's nothing else she can do. 5 minutes until impact. The Watcher is still in the air, but barely. The turbulence is incredible. The air is roiling, convecting, rising and falling in violent currents that threaten to tear its wings apart. It's trying to land, trying to find the cliff, but it can't see. The light is too bright. Everything is washed out, bleached white, like staring into the sun. It folds its wings and drops, hoping to get below the worst of the turbulence, but the air is chaos all the way down. It hits the ground hard, one wing crumpling beneath it, and lies there, stunned, unable to move. Above it, the sky is burning. 1 minute until impact. The asteroid is so close now that it's no longer in the sky. It's part of the sky, it's everywhere. A dome of light and heat and sound that fills the entire eastern horizon. You can see details now. The pitted surface, the way it's tumbling, the trail of superheated air behind it, glowing like a comet's tail. It's beautiful, in a terrible way. The kind of beauty that comes from absolute destruction, from forces so vast that they transcend human comprehension. But there are no humans here to comprehend it, just dinosaurs and pterosaurs and mammals and birds, all of them staring at the sky, all of them waiting for the end. The matriarch closes her eyes, the hunter bows its head, the survivor curls tighter, the Watcher lies still, and the asteroid falls. 20 kilometers per second, 10 kilometers wide, carrying the kinetic energy of 100 million megatons of TNT, falling toward a shallow sea off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, falling toward a world that has no idea what's about to happen. Falling, 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 and then contact. The asteroid strikes the shallow sea at 20 kilometers per second, and the universe holds its breath. For the first microsecond, nothing seems to happen. The rock is still intact, still solid, still recognizable as the thing that has been falling through space for 160 million years. Then physics takes over. At 20 kilometers per second, matter doesn't behave the way you'd expect. Solid rock doesn't crack or shatter. It doesn't splash into the water like a stone thrown into a pond. It vaporizes. The front edge of the asteroid, the part that hits first, is compressed so violently that the atoms themselves are crushed together. The pressure is millions of times greater than atmospheric pressure. The temperature spikes to hundreds of thousands of degrees. Rock becomes plasma, water becomes plasma. Air becomes plasma. In the first tenth of a second, the entire asteroid, 10 kilometers of stone and metal weighing 1 trillion tons, ceases to exist as a solid object. It becomes energy, pure, terrible, world-ending energy. If you were watching from space, if such a thing were possible, if you could survive what's about to happen, you'd see a flash. Not a flash like lightning. Not a flash like an explosion, a flash like a star being born. The impact site becomes a point of light brighter than the sun, brighter than 100 suns. So bright that it would blind you instantly, burn your retinas to ash before your brain could even register what you're seeing. The light expands outward at the speed of light because that's what light does, and for a brief moment, just a fraction of a second. The Yucatan Peninsula is the brightest place in the solar system, brighter than the surface of the sun, brighter than anything that has happened on Earth in billions of years. And then the shockwave follows. The shockwave is not like the shockwave from a bomb. It's not like anything humans have ever created or witnessed. It's a wall of compressed air moving at supersonic speeds, carrying with it the vaporized remains of the asteroid, the ocean, and the seafloor. In the first second, it travels 20 kilometers. In the first 5 seconds, 100 kilometers. Everything in its path ceases to exist. Not destroyed, not killed, just erased. Trees are ripped from the ground so violently that they disintegrate into splinters before they can even fall. Animals are torn apart at the molecular level, their bodies turned into mist. Rock is pulverized into dust finer than talcum powder. The matriarch is standing in a clearing 200 kilometers from the impact site when the shockwave reaches her. She doesn't hear it coming. Sound can't travel faster than the shockwave itself. One moment, she's standing there, eyes closed, waiting. The next moment, she's gone. Not dead, not yet, just gone. Her body is disassembled, scattered, turned into constituent atoms that mix with the air and the dust and the vaporized rock. The juveniles, the adult male, the entire herd, gone in an instant. They didn't suffer. There wasn't time to suffer. The shockwave moved faster than nerve signals, faster than pain, faster than thought. They were alive, and then they weren't, and there was no transition between the two states. But let's slow down. Let's rewind a few seconds and look at what's happening at the impact site itself. The asteroid is gone, vaporized, but its energy remains. 100 million megatons of kinetic energy, all released in the span of a few seconds. That energy has to go somewhere. Some of it goes into vaporizing the ocean. The shallow sea, hundreds of meters deep, stretching for thousands of square kilometers, is turned into steam in seconds. Not boiled. Vaporized. The water molecules are ripped apart, turned into hydrogen and oxygen, superheated to temperatures that would melt steel. Some of it goes into vaporizing the seafloor. The limestone bedrock, ancient, compressed, laid down over millions of years, is punched through like tissue paper. The asteroid doesn't stop at the seafloor. It keeps going, drilling down into the Earth's crust, down through layers of sediment and rock, down into the mantle itself, and some of it goes into creating the crater. The impact excavates a hole in the Earth 150 kilometers wide and 30 kilometers deep. That's wider than the distance from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia. That's deeper than the cruising altitude of commercial airplanes. The crater forms in less than a minute. The rock at the edges of the crater doesn't have time to crack or break. It flows, like liquid pushed aside by forces so immense that solid stone behaves like water. And then, because physics demands it, the crater rebounds. The center of the crater, the deepest part where the asteroid punched through, springs back up like a droplet of water bouncing off a surface. Except this isn't water. This is molten rock, thousands of cubic kilometers of it, fountaining upward in a column that rises tens of kilometers into the air. Then it collapses back down, and the crater settles into its final shape. The whole process takes less than 10 minutes. When it's over, there's a scar on the face of the Earth that will last for millions of years. This is Chicxulub, the place where the age of dinosaurs ended. But the crater is just the beginning. The impact throws debris into the air. Not a little debris, not a few rocks. Millions of tons of debris, billions of tons. Rock vaporized and then condensed into tiny droplets is hurled upward at speeds that defy imagination. Some of it is moving so fast that it escapes Earth's gravity entirely, becoming meteorites that will eventually fall on the Moon, on Mars, maybe even on distant moons of Jupiter. But most of it goes up and then comes back down. It arcs through the upper atmosphere, following ballistic trajectories, spreading out across the entire planet. Some of it lands in North America, some in South America. Some crosses the Atlantic and falls in Europe and Africa. Some crosses the Pacific and falls in Asia. And as it falls, it heats up. Friction with the atmosphere turns the droplets incandescent. They glow white-hot, brighter than molten metal, and they radiate heat downward like a billion tiny suns. Within minutes of the impact, the sky over the entire planet begins to glow, not just near the impact site, everywhere. If you're standing in what will one day be Montana or China or Australia, you look up and see the sky turning orange, then red, then white. The temperature spikes, not gradually, suddenly. It's like standing in front of an open oven. No, worse than that. It's like standing inside the oven. The radiant heat from the re-entering ejector is intense enough to ignite anything flammable. Forests catch fire, grasslands catch fire. Dead wood, dry leaves, even living plants with enough surface area to absorb the heat, all of it ignites. Within an hour of the impact, fires are burning on every continent. The Hunter is 4,000 kilometers from the impact site, in what will one day be called Montana. It survived the initial shockwave. It was too far away for that. It survived the earthquakes. It was standing on solid ground, not near any fault lines. But it doesn't survive the heat. The sky above it turns white. and the temperature soars. The hunter feels its skin beginning to blister, its scales cracking, its eyes drying out. It tries to run, but there's nowhere to run. The heat is everywhere, falling from the sky like rain. Its lungs are seared with the first breath of superheated air. The second breath doesn't come. The hunter collapses, its massive body hitting the ground with a sound like thunder, and lies still. Around it, the forest is burning. The trees are torches. The undergrowth is a carpet of flame. The hunter's body begins to burn too. Skin, muscle, bone, all of it fuel for the fire. Within hours, there will be nothing left but ash. The watcher is closer to the impact site. Much closer. It's lying on the ground where it fell, one wing broken, unable to move. The shockwave hasn't reached it yet. It's still a few seconds away. But the light has reached it. The terrible, blinding light from the impact site, bright enough to burn. The watcher's eyes are open. It can't close them. It's in shock, paralyzed, unable to do anything but stare at the sky. And the sky is on fire. The last thing the watcher sees is light, pure, white, all-consuming light. Then the shockwave arrives, and the watcher is torn apart, its body scattered across kilometers of burning landscape. It was one of the largest flying animals that ever lived. It ruled the skies for millions of years. Now it's gone. Just atoms in the wind. The survivor is still in its burrow. The shockwave passes over it, but the burrow is deep enough, insulated enough, that the worst of it is deflected. The walls shake. Dirt rains down from the ceiling. But the burrow holds. The heat comes next. The temperature inside the burrow spikes, climbing from comfortable to sweltering in seconds. The survivor is panting, its tiny body struggling to cool itself, but it's alive. Above ground, the forest is burning. The tree that shelters the burrow is on fire, its trunk cracking and popping as the sap boils. But below ground, in the darkness, the survivor waits. It doesn't know that it's one of the lucky ones. It doesn't know that most of the life on the surface is already dead or dying. It just knows that it's hot, and it's scared, and all it can do is wait for the heat to pass. Let's pull back now. Let's look at the whole planet. From space, Earth looks like it's been stabbed. There's a glowing wound on the Yucatan Peninsula, a crater filled with molten rock radiating heat like a forge. Around the crater, a ring of devastation spreads outward, forests flattened, coastlines scoured, mountains crumbled. And above it all, a plume of debris is rising into the stratosphere, a column of vaporized rock and water and air, climbing higher and higher, spreading out at the top like a mushroom cloud, except this mushroom cloud is the size of a continent. The debris spreads across the upper atmosphere, carried by high-altitude winds, and begins to fall. And as it falls, the sky lights up. Streaks of light appear over North America, then South America, then Europe, then Asia, then Africa, then Australia. The entire planet is being bombarded by re-entering ejecta, and the entire planet is heating up. Forests burn, grasslands burn, swamps burn. Even the tundra far to the north begins to smolder. The smoke rises, thick and black, blotting out the sun. But it doesn't matter. The sun is already invisible, hidden behind the glowing sky. There are survivors, of course. There have to be. Life is resilient. Life finds a way, not because it's clever or determined, but because it's diverse. Billions of organisms, each one slightly different, each one adapted to slightly different conditions. Most of them die, but some don't. Deep in the ocean below the thermocline, where the water is cold and dark and insulated from the chaos above, some creatures survive. Fish, squid, jellyfish, microorganisms. In caves, where the rock provides shelter from the heat and the shockwaves, some creatures survive. Bats, insects, fungi. In burrows like the survivors where the earth itself is a shield, some creatures survive. Mammals, reptiles, amphibians. And in the sky, or rather, in the places where the sky is not yet on fire, some birds survive. Small ones, fast ones, ones that can fly high enough or far enough to escape the worst of the heat. But the dinosaurs, the great dinosaurs, the ones that ruled the land for 160 million years, they're dying. Not all at once. Not instantly, but inexorably. The large ones die first, the ones that can't hide, that can't burrow, that can't escape the heat. The Triceratops, the Tyrannosaurus, the Hadrosaurs. The ankylosaurs. The sauropods. All of them gone within hours. Their bodies litter the landscape, some burned, some crushed, some simply dead from the heat and the shock and the sheer terror of it all. And the smaller ones, the ones that might have survived the initial impact, are dying too. Slowly. From starvation, from dehydration, from the toxic air, from the fires that won't stop burning. The age of dinosaurs is ending. Not with a whimper. With a roar of fire and fury that will echo through geological time. 12 hours after impact, the fires are still burning. The sky is still glowing, the temperature is still climbing. But the worst of the initial chaos is over. The shockwave has circled the planet and dissipated. The ejector has mostly fallen. The crater has stopped rebounding. Now comes the next phase. The debris in the atmosphere, the vaporized rock, the ash, the soot from the fires, begins to spread. It forms a layer in the stratosphere, a blanket of particles that blocks the sun. The glowing sky begins to fade. Not because the fires are going out, they're still burning, but because the light from the re-entering ejector is fading. And as the glow fades, darkness takes its place. Not the darkness of night. Darker than that. The darkness of a sky choked with ash and dust. A sky that will not clear for months, maybe years. The sun is still up there, somewhere behind the veil. But its light can't reach the surface. Photosynthesis stops. Plants begin to die. And when the plants die, everything that depends on them dies too. The herbivores starve. The carnivores, deprived of prey, starve. The ocean, deprived of sunlight, begins to collapse. Plankton die. The food chain disintegrates. This is the impact winter, the long, slow death that follows the fast, violent death. And it's only just beginning. 24 hours after impact, the survivor emerges from its burrow. The air is cooler now. Still warm, but not unbearable. The heat has passed. The mammal pokes its head out cautiously, whiskers twitching, testing the air. The smell is overwhelming. Smoke. Ash. Burning wood. Burning flesh. The forest is gone. The trees are blackened stumps. The undergrowth is ash. The ground is covered in a layer of grey powder that puffs up with every step. The survivor takes a few tentative steps, then stops. It's looking for food, for water, for anything familiar, but there's nothing. Just ash and smoke and silence. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no hadrosaurs calling in the distance. Just silence. The survivor stands there for a long moment, small and alone in a world that has ended. Then it turns and goes back into the burrow. There's nothing out here. Not yet. It will wait. Somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, a sea turtle surfaces. It's been underwater for hours, hiding from the chaos, and now it needs to breathe. It breaks the surface and takes a gulp of air. The air tastes wrong, full of smoke and chemicals, but it's air, and air is life. The turtle looks around. The ocean is calm now. The waves have settled. The sky is dark but not stormy. Just dark. The turtle doesn't understand what's happened. It doesn't have the capacity to understand. It just knows that the world is different now. It takes another breath, then dives back down into the safety of the deep. It will survive. Sea turtles are good at surviving. They've been around for 100 million years, and they'll be around for 100 million more. But the world it surfaces into will never be the same. In a cave in what will one day be called South America, a small crocodilium is hiding. It's been in the cave for hours, ever since the ground started shaking and the sky started burning. Now it's waiting for the world to go back to normal. But normal is gone. Normal ended the moment the asteroid struck. The crocodilian doesn't know this. It just waits. And because it's in a cave, because it's small, because it can survive on very little food and water, it will outlast the chaos. Crocodilians are survivors. They survived the Permian extinction. They survived the Triassic extinction. They'll survive this one too. But they'll be alone. The world they knew is gone. 48 hours after impact, the sky is black. Completely black. No stars. No moon. No sun. Just darkness. The fires are still burning in some places, casting an eerie orange glow on the horizon, but most of the fuel is gone. Most of the forests have already burned. The temperature is dropping now. Fast. Without sunlight, the Earth is cooling. The warmth from the impact is radiating away into space, and there's nothing to replace it. In the tropics, where it's been warm for millions of years, the temperature drops below freezing. In the temperate zones, it drops even further. Snow begins to fall, not normal snow. Ash mixed with ice, grey and gritty, covering the landscape in a frozen shroud. The plants that survived the fires are dying now, frozen. Starved of light. The herbivores that survived the fires are dying too. No food, no warmth. The carnivores are dying, no prey. The world is dying, not all at once, but steadily, relentlessly, inevitably. 1 week after impact, the survivor is still alive. It's been living off the last of its fat reserves, venturing out of the burrow only when absolutely necessary, searching for insects, for seeds, for anything edible. There's not much. Most of the insects are dead. Most of the seeds are buried under ash. But the survivor is small. It doesn't need much. It finds a beetle, half frozen, struggling to move. The mammal pounces, kills it with a quick bite, and eats it. It's not enough, but it's something. The survivor returns to the burrow and curls up, conserving energy, waiting for the world to heal. It doesn't know if the world will heal. It doesn't think in those terms. It just waits. The impact took less than a second. The shockwave took minutes. The fires took hours, but the dying will take months, years, decades. Most of the dinosaurs are already gone. The rest will follow. The pterosaurs are gone. All of them. They were too big, too dependent on thermals and open skies. They couldn't survive the darkness. The marine reptiles, the mosasaurs, the plesiosaurs, are dying. The ocean is collapsing, and they're starving. The ammonites, ancient and successful, are dying too. They've survived for hundreds of millions of years, but this is too much. This is the end. 75% of all species on Earth will go extinct, not because of the impact itself, not because of the fires, because of the darkness, because of the cold, because the sun has been hidden, and without the sun there is no life, but 25% will survive. The small ones, the ones that can hide, the ones that can wait, the mammals, the birds, the crocodiles, the turtles, the fish, the insects, they will inherit the Earth. Not because they're stronger, not because they're smarter, just because they're small enough to hide, patient enough to wait, and lucky enough to be in the right place when the sky fell. The ocean doesn't know how to be gone. For hundreds of millions of years, water has filled the Gulf of Mexico, lapping at coastlines, supporting life, moving with the tides and currents and the slow rhythm of the planet. Now, in the space of a few seconds, a section of it has been vaporized, not boiled away, not evaporated, vaporized, turned into superheated steam and then into constituent atoms, hydrogen and oxygen, scattered across the stratosphere. Where the water used to be, there's now a crater. A hole in the ocean floor 30 kilometers deep, glowing with molten rock, radiating heat that would melt steel. And the ocean, doing what water does, rushes in to fill the void. From every direction, billions of tons of seawater pour toward the impact site, converging on the crater like water circling a drain. But this isn't a drain. This is a wound in the earth, and when the water hits the superheated rock at the bottom, it doesn't just boil, it explodes. Steam erupts from the crater with the force of 1,000 volcanoes, shooting upward in a column that punches through the atmosphere and reaches into space. And the water that doesn't vaporize, the water that's still liquid, still moving, has nowhere to go but out. It forms a wave. Not a wave like you've seen at the beach. Not even a wave like a tsunami from an earthquake. A mega tsunami. A wall of water hundreds of meters high, moving at the speed of a jet airplane, and it's radiating outward from the impact site in all directions. The wave hits the Yucatan coastline first. There's nothing left there to hit. The shockwave already scoured the land clean, turning forests into splinters and animals into mist. But the wave doesn't care. It crashes over the devastated landscape, pushing inland, carrying with it the debris of the ocean floor, rocks, sediment, the pulverized remains of coral reefs that have been growing for millions of years. It travels 100 kilometers inland before it finally loses momentum and begins to recede. And when it recedes, it takes everything with it: soil, rock, the ash from the fires, the bodies of the dead. All of it is dragged back into the ocean, churned and mixed and deposited in chaotic layers that will, millions of years later, confuse and fascinate geologists trying to understand what happened here. But the Yucatan is just the beginning. The wave spreads across the Gulf of Mexico, moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour. It hits the coast of what will one day be called Texas within minutes. The land there is low, flat, barely above sea level. The wave doesn't slow down, it just keeps going, pushing inland, turning the coastal plain into a temporary sea. Dinosaurs that survived the initial impact, the ones that were far enough away, the ones that found shelter, are caught by the wave and drowned. Their bodies are tossed like leaves in a storm, broken against rocks, buried under tons of sediment. The wave hits Florida, it hits Cuba, it hits the coasts of Central America and South America, and it doesn't stop at the Gulf. The energy radiates outward, into the Atlantic, into the Caribbean, spreading across the entire ocean basin. Within an hour, waves are hitting the east coast of North America, the coasts of South America, even the western coasts of Europe and Africa. They're smaller by then. The energy has dissipated over distance, but they're still massive, still deadly. Coastal ecosystems that survived the fires are wiped out by the water. And then, hours later, the water recedes, leaving behind a landscape that looks like it's been through a blender. But water is not the only thing moving. The impact released energy equivalent to 100 million megatons of TNT. Most of that energy went into vaporizing rock and water, into creating the crater, into throwing debris into the atmosphere. But some of it went into the Earth itself. The impact was like hitting a bell with a hammer. The bell rings. The Earth rings too. Seismic waves radiate outward from the impact site, traveling through the crust, through the mantle, through the core. They're not like normal earthquakes. Normal earthquakes are caused by tectonic plates slipping past each other, releasing stored energy. This is different. This is the entire planet vibrating, resonating, responding to the most violent event it has experienced in millions of years. The magnitude is off the scale. Magnitude 10, maybe magnitude 11. The Richter scale wasn't designed for impacts like this. Every seismograph on Earth, if there were seismographs, would be going crazy. The needles would slam to the maximum and stay there. The seismic waves travel at different speeds through different materials. The fastest waves, the pay waves, the pressure waves, travel through the Earth's interior at about 8 kilometers per second. They reach the opposite side of the planet in less than 20 minutes. The slower waves, the S waves, the shear waves, follow behind, traveling at about 4 kilometers per second. And the slowest waves, the surface waves, the ones that cause the most damage, ripple across the crust like waves on water. When the waves reach fault lines, places where tectonic plates are already under stress, they trigger earthquakes. Big ones, the San Andreas Fault slips, the Cascadia subduction zone ruptures. Faults in the Himalayas, in the Andes, in the East African Rift, all of them move. Mountains shake, valleys collapse, cliffs crumble into the sea, and the shaking doesn't stop. The seismic waves bounce around inside the Earth, reflecting off the core, off the crust, creating a chaotic pattern of vibrations that will continue for days. In what will one day be called India, something even more dramatic is happening. The Deccan Traps. For the past few 100,000 years, this region has been volcanically active. Lava has been pouring out of fissures in the ground, spreading across the landscape, building up layer upon layer of basalt. It's one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history, and it's been contributing to climate change, to environmental stress, to the slow decline of ecosystems even before the asteroid hit. But it's been relatively stable. The eruptions have been steady, predictable, manageable, until now. The seismic waves from the impact reach the Deccan Traps and shake the magma chambers deep underground. The result is catastrophic. Fissures that were oozing lava begin to gush. New fissures open up, releasing floods of molten rock that spread across the landscape like water from a broken dam. The eruptions intensify. Lava fountains shoot hundreds of meters into the air. Ash and sulfur dioxide pour into the atmosphere, adding to the already choking blanket of debris from the impact. The Deccan traps will continue erupting for thousands of years, but this moment, this surge of activity triggered by the impact, will be one of the most violent phases. The Earth is not just wounded, it's convulsing. Let's go back to the ocean. The mega tsunami was just the first wave, the immediate response to the impact, but the ocean is still in chaos. The impact displaced so much water that the entire Gulf of Mexico is sloshing back and forth like water in a bathtub. Waves are bouncing off coastlines, interfering with each other, creating chaotic patterns that will take days to settle. And beneath the surface, the water is churning. The impact heated the ocean. Not just at the surface, but deep down. The heat from the vaporized rock, from the molten crater, is radiating into the surrounding water, creating massive convection currents. Hot water rises, cold water sinks. The normal stratification of the ocean, the layers of different temperatures and densities, is disrupted, and with the stratification disrupted, the chemistry changes. Oxygen levels drop. Nutrients that are normally locked in deep sediments are stirred up, creating toxic blooms of bacteria. The ocean is dying, not all at once, but steadily. Fish are suffocating, coral reefs are bleaching. Plankton, the foundation of the marine food web, are dying in massive numbers. And when the plankton die, everything that depends on them dies too. Within weeks, the ocean will be a graveyard. On land, the survivors are facing their own hell. The fires are still burning in some places, but most of the fuel is gone. The forests are ash. The grasslands are ash. Even the swamps, normally too wet to burn, have been dried out by the heat and turned to char. The air is toxic. Smoke from the fires, sulfur dioxide from the Deccan traps, vaporized rock from the impact. All of it mixing together, creating a choking haze that makes it hard to breathe, hard to see, hard to survive, and the temperature is swinging wildly. In the first few hours after the impact, the temperature spiked. The radiant heat from the re-entering ejector turned the sky into an oven. But now, with the sun blocked by ash and dust, the temperature is plummeting. In the tropics, where it's been warm for millions of years, the temperature drops below freezing at night. In the temperate zones, it's even worse. Snow is falling. Not normal snow ash mixed with ice, grey and gritty, covering the ground in a frozen shroud. The plants that survived the fires are dying now. Frozen, starved of light, and the animals that survived the fires are dying too. There's a young hadrosaur, barely a year old, standing in what used to be a forest. It's one of the lucky ones. It was far enough from the impact site to survive the shockwave. It was in a valley when the fires came, and the valley channeled the heat upward, sparing the ground. But now it's alone. Its herd is gone. Its parents are gone. It doesn't understand what happened. It just knows that the world is wrong. The trees are gone. The plants it used to eat are gone. The water in the stream tastes strange, full of ash and chemicals. It's hungry. It's cold. It's scared. It wanders through the ash, calling out, hoping for an answer. No answer comes. It finds a patch of ferns that somehow survived, buried under a layer of ash. It tries to eat them, but they're frozen, brittle, tasteless. It eats anyway. It has to, but it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. The hadrosaur will survive for a few more days, maybe a week. Then it will collapse, too weak to stand, and it will die. Not from violence, not from predators, just from hunger and cold, and the simple fact that the world it was born into no longer exists. The survivor is still in its burrow. It's been a week now since the impact. Maybe longer. Time is hard to measure in the darkness. The mammal is surviving, but barely. It's lost weight. Its fur is matted and dirty. Its movements are slow, lethargic. It ventures out occasionally, searching for food. Sometimes it finds a beetle, half frozen, struggling to move. Sometimes it finds seeds, buried under the ash. Sometimes it finds nothing. But it keeps searching, because that's what it does. That's what its ancestors have done for 100 million years. Survive. Persist. Wait for better times. The survivor doesn't know if better times are coming. It doesn't think in those terms. It just keeps going. In the ocean, a mosasaur is dying. It's one of the apex predators of the Cretaceous seas. a giant marine reptile, 15 meters long, with jaws that can crush bone. But right now, it's starving. The fish are gone. The ammonites are gone. The smaller marine reptiles are gone. There's nothing to eat. The mosasaur has been swimming for days, searching for prey, finding nothing but empty water and floating debris. Its body is starting to shut down. Its muscles are wasting away. Its movements are sluggish. It surfaces one last time, takes a breath of the toxic air, and then sinks. It doesn't have the energy to swim anymore. It drifts downward, slowly, peacefully, into the dark depths of the ocean. Its body will settle on the seafloor, and over millions of years it will be buried in sediment, compressed, fossilized. 66 million years later, someone will find it and marvel at how large it was, how powerful, how perfectly adapted to its environment. But they won't be able to tell, just from the bones, how it died. They'll have to infer it. Piece together the evidence, the iridium layer, the shocked quartz, the soot in the sediments, and they'll realize this creature didn't die of old age or disease or predation. It died because the sky fell. 2 weeks after impact, the Earth is settling into a new equilibrium. A terrible equilibrium, but an equilibrium nonetheless. The fires are mostly out. There's nothing left to burn. The tsunamis have subsided. The water has returned to the ocean basins, leaving behind chaotic deposits of sediment and debris. The earthquakes are less frequent now. The seismic waves have dissipated. The planet has stopped ringing. But the darkness remains. The sun is still hidden behind a veil of ash and dust and sulfur aerosols. The sky is a uniform grey, day and night with no variation, no hint of blue. The temperature has stabilized, but at a much lower level than before. The tropics are temperate. The temperate zones are Arctic. The Arctic is uninhabitable, and the dying continues. Plants are dying. Without sunlight, photosynthesis is impossible. The leaves turn brown, then black, then fall off. The stems wither. The roots rot. Herbivores are dying. Without plants, there's no food. They eat bark, roots, anything they can find. But it's not enough. Carnivores are dying. Without herbivores, there's no prey. Some of them turn to scavenging, feeding on the corpses that litter the landscape, but the corpses are rotting, toxic, and they won't last forever. The ocean is dying. The plankton are gone. The food web has collapsed. Fish, squid, marine reptiles, all of them starving. 75% of species will go extinct. That's the number paleontologists will calculate millions of years later when they study the fossil record. But numbers don't capture the reality. The reality is billions of individual deaths, billions of creatures, each one struggling to survive, each one failing. The reality is a planet in agony. But life is stubborn. In the deep ocean where the sun never reaches anyway, some creatures are doing fine. They don't depend on photosynthesis. They depend on chemosynthesis, extracting energy from chemicals in the water, from volcanic vents, from the decay of organic matter. The impact didn't touch them. The darkness doesn't affect them. They just keep going, oblivious to the catastrophe above. In caves, where the temperature is stable and food is scarce but present, some creatures are surviving. Bats, insects, fungi that feed on decaying matter. In burrows like the survivors, some creatures are waiting out the storm. Mammals, small reptiles, amphibians, and in the sky, or what's left of it, some birds are surviving. Small ones, adaptable ones, ones that can eat seeds and insects and carrion. They're not thriving, but they're not dying either. They're waiting. 1 month after impact, the survivor emerges from its burrow and finds a world of ash and ice. The ground is frozen solid, the trees are skeletal, their branches bare and brittle. The stream is a ribbon of ice, but there's something new. Silence. Not the silence of the first few days when the world was still burning and the air was full of smoke and screams. A deeper silence, the silence of absence. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no hadrosaurs calling in the distance. Just wind blowing across the frozen wasteland, carrying ash and ice crystals. The survivor stands there for a long moment, small and alone. Then it sees movement. Another mammal, smaller than the survivor, with different fur, different teeth, a different species. They stare at each other. In the old world, they might have been competitors. They might have fought over territory, over food, over mates. But this is not the old world. They're both survivors. They're both struggling, and there's enough ash and frozen ground for everyone. The other mammal turns and scurries away, disappearing into a crack in the rocks. The survivor watches it go, then turns back to its burrow. There's nothing out here. Not yet, but someday there will be. Someday the sun will return. The ice will melt, plants will grow again. And the survivors, the small, stubborn, patient survivors, will inherit the earth. The darkness is beginning to lift, just a little. Just enough to notice. The ash is settling. The sulfur aerosols are breaking down, reacting with water vapor, falling as acid rain. The rain is toxic. It burns the skin, kills what few plants are left, but it's also clearing the air. Slowly, incrementally, the sky is becoming less opaque. You still can't see the sun, but you can see a glow, a faint brightening in one part of the sky that tells you where the sun is. It's not much, but it's something, and for the first time since the impact, there's hope. Not hope in the human sense, not optimism or faith or belief in a better future, just the simple biological fact that conditions are improving, that survival is becoming slightly less impossible. The plants that survived, the ones with deep roots, the ones with seeds that can lie dormant for years, begin to stir. Tiny green shoots push through the ash. Ferns mostly. Ferns are good at this. They've survived mass extinctions before, and where there are plants, there will be herbivores, and where there are herbivores, there will be carnivores. The ecosystem is beginning to rebuild. It will take millions of years. It will never be the same as it was. The dinosaurs are gone, and they're not coming back. But life will continue, because that's what life does. 6 months after impact, the survivor has found a mate. It's another small mammal, similar in size and shape, and they've been sharing the burrow for a few weeks now. They've mated. And now, deep in the safety of the burrow, the female is giving birth. 3 tiny, hairless, blind creatures, each one no bigger than a thumb. They're helpless, they're vulnerable, they won't survive without constant care. But they're alive, and they represent something important. The future. The survivor and its mate will raise these young, teach them to forage, to hide, to survive. And those young will grow up and have young of their own. And over millions of years their descendants will diversify, evolve, spread across the planet. Some will become primates, some will become whales, some will become bats, or elephants, or humans. But right now, they're just 3 tiny mammals in a burrow, nursing from their mother, oblivious to the fact that they're the inheritors of a world that has just been reborn. The earth has screamed, it has convulsed, it has bled, but it has not died. The impact was catastrophic. The fires were devastating, the tsunamis were apocalyptic, the earthquakes were world-shaking. But the earth is old. It has survived worse. It will survive this. The dinosaurs are gone, the pterosaurs are gone, the marine reptiles are gone, but the mammals remain. The birds remain. The crocodiles, the turtles, the fish, the insects, they remain. And from them, a new world will grow. A world without Triceratops or Tyrannosaurus. A world without Quetzalcoatlus soaring over the oceans, but a world nonetheless. A world that will, in time, be just as vibrant, just as diverse, just as full of life as the one that ended on that ordinary Tuesday 66 million years ago. The Earth has screamed, now it begins to heal. 1 year after impact, the sun is visible again. Not bright, not warm, just a pale disk in a grey sky, filtered through layers of dust and aerosols that still haven't fully settled. But it's there, and that changes everything. Light reaches the surface. Not much, maybe 10% of what it used to be, but enough. Enough for photosynthesis. Enough for plants to grow. Enough for life to begin the long, slow process of recovery. The world is not the same. It will never be the same, but it's no longer dying. Let's look at what's left. The forests are gone, the great conifer forests that covered the continents, the cycad groves, the flowering magnolias, all of them reduced to ash and charred stumps. but the soil remains. And in the soil, seeds are waiting. Fern spores, mostly. Ferns are the great survivors of mass extinctions. They reproduce quickly, spread easily, and can grow in the poorest conditions. Within months of the sun's return, ferns are sprouting everywhere, a carpet of green spreading across the grey wasteland, reclaiming the land. It's not a forest, not yet. Just a low, scrubby layer of vegetation, barely knee-high. But it's life, and where there's life, there's hope. The animals that survived are emerging from their hiding places. The survivor is still alive, older now, scarred, but alive. Its 3 offspring from 6 months ago survived too. They're juveniles now, almost full-grown, learning to forage on their own. The burrow that sheltered them through the worst of the impact winter is still there, still safe, but they're venturing farther from it now. There's food again. Not much, but enough. Insects are returning, beetles mostly, feeding on the decaying plant matter, and where there are insects, there are insect eaters. The survivor catches a beetle, crunches it between its teeth, and swallows. The taste is familiar, comforting. Life is hard, but it's no longer impossible. In the ocean, recovery is slower. The surface waters are still depleted. The plankton that used to form the base of the food web are gone, and it will take years for them to recover. But in the deep ocean, life continues. The creatures that live near hydrothermal vents, the ones that never depended on sunlight, are thriving. They're feeding on the chemicals that seep from the Earth's crust, and they're reproducing, spreading, filling the ecological niches left empty by the extinction. And slowly, some of them are moving upward, into the shallower waters, adapting to the new conditions. Evolution doesn't stop. It never stops. The birds are doing well, better than well, actually. They're thriving. Birds are dinosaurs. Technically. They evolved from small theropods millions of years ago, and they inherited many of the traits that made dinosaurs successful. Hollow bones, efficient lungs, keen eyesight. But they also have something the large dinosaurs didn't, the ability to fly. When the impact winter came, when the temperature plummeted and food became scarce, birds could migrate. They could fly to places where conditions were slightly better, where there was still food, still water. And they're small. Small animals need less food, can hide more easily, can survive on scraps. So while the Triceratops and the Tyrannosaurus died, the birds lived. And now, with the sun returning, with plants beginning to grow again, the birds are spreading across the continents, filling the skies, singing songs that haven't been heard in a year. They're the living remnants of the age of dinosaurs, the survivors, the inheritors. Let's talk about what didn't survive. The large dinosaurs are gone. All of them. The sauropods, the long-necked giants that could weigh as much as 10 elephants, are extinct. The ceratopsians, Triceratops and its relatives, are extinct. The hadrosaurs, the duck-billed herbivores that travelled in vast herds, are extinct. The tyrannosaurs, the apex predators that ruled the food chain, are extinct. The ankylosaurs, the stegosaurs, the pachycephalosaurs, all extinct. The pterosaurs are gone too, every species, the small ones, the large ones, the ones that soared over oceans, and the ones that hunted in forests. The marine reptiles, mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, are gone. The ammonites, ancient mollusks that had survived for hundreds of millions of years through multiple mass extinctions, are gone. 75% of all species on Earth have gone extinct. But 25% survived, and from that 25%, a new world will emerge. 5 years after impact, the ferns are giving way to other plants now. Flowering plants, angiosperms, are beginning to spread. They're more complex than ferns. More specialized, but they're also more adaptable. They produce seeds that can lie dormant for years, waiting for the right conditions. They produce flowers that attract pollinators. They produce fruits that animals can eat, spreading the seeds far and wide. In the old world, flowering plants were relatively new, still competing with conifers and cycads for dominance. In the new world, they have an advantage. The conifers and cycads were hit hard by the extinction. Their seeds are large, slow to germinate, vulnerable to the harsh conditions of the impact winter. But the flowering plants are resilient, and they're spreading fast. Within a few million years, they'll dominate the planet. Grasses, trees, shrubs, vines, all of them descendants of the plants that survived the impact. The mammals are diversifying. For 160 million years, mammals were marginal. Small, nocturnal, hiding from dinosaurs, eking out a living in the shadows. But the dinosaurs are gone now, and the shadows are empty. The mammals are stepping into the light. They're still small. Most of them are no bigger than a cat, but they're evolving quickly, adapting to the new world, filling the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction. Some are becoming herbivores, feeding on the new plants. Some are becoming carnivores, hunting the insects and small reptiles that survived. Some are becoming omnivores, eating whatever they can find. And they're spreading across continents, across climates, into forests and grasslands and deserts. The survivors' descendants are part of this radiation. One lineage will become primates. Another will become rodents. Another will become ungulates, hoofed mammals that will one day include horses, deer, and cattle. But that's millions of years in the future. Right now, they're just small, furry creatures trying to survive in a world that's still recovering. 10 years after impact, the sky is blue again. Not the same blue as before. The atmosphere has changed. The composition of gases is different, but blue nonetheless. The ash has settled. The sulfur aerosols have broken down. The dust has fallen. The sun shines bright and warm, and for the first time in a decade, the temperature is rising. The ice is melting. The frozen tundra is thawing. Rivers are flowing again. And with the warmth, life is exploding. Plants are growing faster than they can be eaten. Insects are swarming. Birds are nesting. Mammals are reproducing. It's not the same ecosystem as before. It's simpler, less diverse, dominated by a few hardy species. But it's an ecosystem, and it's growing. Let's talk about the crocodiles. Crocodiles are survivors. They've been around for over 200 million years, and they've survived multiple mass extinctions. They survived the Permian extinction, the worst extinction event in Earth's history, when 90% of all species died. They survived the Triassic extinction, and they survived the Cretaceous extinction. How? Because they're adaptable. They can live in water or on land. They can eat almost anything: fish, mammals, birds, carrion. They can go months without food. They can tolerate extreme temperatures. And they're patient. They can wait out the bad times, hiding in rivers and swamps, barely moving, barely eating, just surviving. When the impact winter came, the crocodiles retreated to the deepest rivers where the water was warmer, where there was still some food. And when the sun returned, they emerged, hungry and ready to reclaim their territory. They're still here, still thriving, still doing what they've done for 200 million years, surviving. 50 years after impact, the world is green again. Forests are growing, not the same forests as before. The conifers and cycads are rare now, replaced by flowering trees, but forests nonetheless. The rivers are full of fish, the skies are full of birds, the land is full of mammals and reptiles and amphibians. The scars of the impact are still visible. The Chicxulub crater is still there, a massive depression in the Yucatan Peninsula, slowly filling with sediment. The iridium layer, a thin band of extraterrestrial material deposited by the impact, is being buried under new layers of rock and soil, but life has moved on. The creatures that survived don't remember the impact. They don't have the capacity to remember. They just live, reproduce, die, and pass their genes to the next generation. And with each generation, the world becomes a little more stable, a little more diverse, a little more like the world we know today. 100 years after impact, the survivor is long dead. So are its children and its children's children. But its descendants are everywhere. They've spread across the continents, diversified into dozens of species, adapted to every environment from tropical forests to Arctic tundra. Some of them are still small, still nocturnal, still hiding in burrows, but some of them are getting bigger, bolder, more adventurous. One lineage has developed sharper teeth, stronger jaws. They're becoming predators, hunting the small reptiles and birds that are abundant in the New World. Another lineage has developed flatter teeth, better for grinding plant material. They're becoming herbivores, feeding on the leaves and seeds of the flowering plants. And another lineage has developed longer limbs, better for climbing. They're moving into the trees, where there's less competition, more food, more safety. This lineage will, in time, become primates. But that's 65 million years in the future, 1,000 years after impact. The extinction is over, not in the sense that nothing is dying. Things are always dying. But in the sense that the mass die-off, the catastrophic collapse of ecosystems has ended, the survivors have stabilized, the populations are growing, the food webs are rebuilding. The world is no longer in crisis, it's in recovery. And recovery, it turns out, is an opportunity. With so many ecological niches empty, with so much space to fill, evolution accelerates. New species are emerging at a rate that hasn't been seen in millions of years. Mammals are diversifying into forms that would have been impossible in the age of dinosaurs. Large herbivores, large carnivores, specialized feeders. Birds are diversifying too. Some are becoming flightless, filling the niches left by the small dinosaurs. Some are becoming specialized hunters, developing keen eyesight and sharp talons. Even the reptiles are diversifying. Snakes, lizards, turtles, all of them evolving, adapting, spreading. The world is being remade. 1 million years after impact, the Chicxulub crater is barely visible now. It's been filled with sediment, eroded by wind and water, covered by vegetation. But it's still there, buried beneath the surface, a scar that will last for hundreds of millions of years. And the iridium layer is still there too, a thin band of rock that marks the boundary between two worlds. Below the layer, dinosaurs, pterosaurs, ammonites, the fauna of the Cretaceous. Above the layer, mammals, birds, flowering plants. The fauna of the Paleogene. Geologists, millions of years in the future, will study this boundary and realize what it represents. The end of an era. The beginning of another, the day the sky fell. 65 million years after impact. A species of primate has evolved the ability to think abstractly, to use tools, to communicate with complex language. They call themselves humans. They're curious. They want to understand the world, to know where they came from, to piece together the history of life on Earth. They dig into the ground and find fossils, bones of creatures that no longer exist. Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus, pterosaurs. They find the iridium layer and realize it's extraterrestrial. They find shocked quartz, tiny glass spheres, evidence of an impact. They find the Chicxulub crater, buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula, and they measure it, study it, calculate the energy of the impact, and they realize 66 million years ago an asteroid struck the Earth and ended the age of dinosaurs. They realize if that asteroid hadn't struck, if the dinosaurs had survived, mammals would still be small, nocturnal, marginal. They realize they exist because of that impact. Every human being alive today is a descendant of the small mammals that survived the impact winter. Every human being carries in their DNA the legacy of that day, the survivor's legacy. Let's return to the present. You're sitting here, reading this, breathing air, thinking thoughts. You're made of atoms. Those atoms have been recycled countless times over the history of the Earth. Some of them were once part of a Triceratops. Some were part of a Tyrannosaurus. Some were part of a fern growing in the Cretaceous forest. And some were part of the asteroid. The impact vaporized rock and scattered it across the planet. That rock settled, mixed with the soil, was absorbed by plants, eaten by animals, passed through food webs, recycled over and over. You are made in part of the thing that ended the age of dinosaurs. You are made of stardust and impact debris and the bones of extinct creatures. You are a product of deep time, of evolution, of extinction and survival, and the relentless march of life. The dinosaurs are not gone. Not entirely. Every time you see a bird, you're seeing a dinosaur, a living, breathing, flying dinosaur. The sparrow outside your window is a theropod, descended from the same lineage that produced Tyrannosaurus rex. The chicken you ate for dinner is a dinosaur. The eagle soaring overhead is a dinosaur. They're smaller than their ancestors. They're different in many ways. But they're still dinosaurs. The age of dinosaurs didn't end. It transformed. The large dinosaurs died, but the small ones survived, evolved, became birds. And they're still here. Still thriving. Still filling the skies. There's a lesson in this story, not a moral lesson. Nature doesn't do morals, but a lesson nonetheless. Life is fragile. A single event, a rock falling from the sky, can end millions of years of evolution, can wipe out entire lineages, can reshape the planet. But life is also resilient. Even after the worst catastrophe in 65 million years, life survived. It recovered. It diversified. It didn't go back to the way it was. It couldn't. Too much had been lost, but it went forward. It found new paths, new forms, new ways of being. And here we are, the descendants of the survivors, the inheritors of a world that was remade by fire and ice and darkness. Somewhere in the asteroid belt, between Mars and Jupiter, rocks are still tumbling through the darkness. Some of them are on trajectories that will eventually bring them close to Earth. Most of them will miss. They'll pass by harmlessly, invisible, unnoticed. But some of them won't. The universe is patient. The universe is indifferent. The universe doesn't care about dinosaurs or mammals or humans. It just follows the laws of physics, and sometimes those laws result in collisions. 66 million years ago, a rock fell from the sky and changed the world. It could happen again. Not today. Not tomorrow. Maybe not for millions of years. But eventually it will. And when it does, the survivors, whatever they are, whoever they are, will inherit the Earth. Just like the mammals inherited it from the dinosaurs. Just like the dinosaurs inherited it from the creatures that came before. The cycle continues. The story doesn't end. It just changes chapters. Let's go back one more time, to that ordinary Tuesday 66 million years ago. The matriarch is standing in a clearing, grazing on ferns, unaware that she has only hours to live. The hunter is stalking prey, calculating, patient, unaware that it will never make another kill. The survivor is sleeping in its burrow, unaware that it will outlive them all. The watcher is soaring over the ocean, unaware that it will soon fall from the sky. They don't know what's coming. They can't know. But we do. We know that in a few hours, the sky will fall. We know that most of them will die. We know that the world will end, but we also know that it won't really end. It will transform. We know that from the ashes, new life will emerge. We know that the survivors will inherit the Earth. We know that 65 million years later, a species of primate will look back at this day and try to understand it, try to learn from it, try to see themselves in the story. And we know that the story is not over. It's still being written by the birds, descendants of dinosaurs, singing in the trees. By the mammals, descendants of the survivor, filling every corner of the planet. By us humans, descendants of both, trying to understand our place in the vast sweep of time. The final day of the dinosaurs was not an ending. It was a beginning. The beginning of the world we live in now. The world of mammals and birds and flowering plants. The world that gave rise to us. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're standing in that Cretaceous forest on that ordinary Tuesday, feeling the humid air, hearing the calls of hadrosaurs, watching the matriarch graze. Now imagine the sky brightening. Imagine the roar growing louder. Imagine the ground beginning to shake. Imagine the moment of impact, the flash of light, the wall of heat, the shockwave. Imagine the darkness that follows, the cold, the silence. And then imagine the first green shoot pushing through the ash, the first bird singing in the grey dawn, the first mammal emerging from its burrow into a new world. Imagine the long, slow recovery, the millions of years of evolution, the rise of new species, new ecosystems, new possibilities. And imagine yourself, here, now, a product of all of that, a creature made of stardust and impact debris and the legacy of survival. A witness to deep time, a participant in the story that began when the sky fell. The dinosaurs had their day, 160 million years, an empire that spanned the globe, that dominated every ecosystem, that seemed eternal. But nothing is eternal. The asteroid came, the dinosaurs fell. The world moved on, and now it's our day. We've been here for a few 100,000 years, a blink of an eye compared to the dinosaurs. We don't know how long our day will last, maybe millions of years, maybe just a few more centuries. But while we're here, we have the privilege of looking back, of understanding what came before, of seeing ourselves as part of a story that's billions of years old. We have the privilege of standing in museums, looking at the bones of Triceratops and Tyrannosaurus, and feeling a connection to creatures that lived and died long before we existed. We have the privilege of knowing that we're not separate from nature. We're part of it. We're made of it. We're shaped by it. And we have the responsibility to remember that the world is fragile, that life is precious, that nothing lasts forever. The dinosaurs didn't know their time was ending, but we do. We know that asteroids are still out there. We know that extinctions can happen. We know that the world can change in an instant, and maybe, just maybe, that knowledge will help us survive. Not forever. Nothing survives forever. But for a while longer. Long enough to see what comes next. Long enough to add our chapter to the story. The sun is setting, not on that Cretaceous Tuesday. That sun set 66 million years ago, and it never rose again on the world of dinosaurs. This is today's sun. Our sun, setting over a world that was born from ashes. The sky turns orange, then red, then purple. Birds are returning to their nests. Mammals are emerging from their burrows. The world is transitioning from day to night, as it has for billions of years, as it will for billions more. And somewhere in the asteroid belt, a rock is tumbling through the darkness, waiting, patient, inevitable. The story continues.